What's good, everyone? It's your boy, yours truly, CC, and welcome to part 2 of my video series where I take you through a step-by-step guide on how to release that first lo-fi single. Now, if you didn't watch part 1, I'd highly suggest watching that video because it talks through how to know when you're ready to release that first single. And the focus of today's video is going to be how we're going to take that fully mastered track and prepare it so that it's ready to be released and shared on digital streaming platforms for everyone to be able to listen to. So let's get straight into it. So typically when planning for the release of a single or an EP or even an album, we plan something called a release strategy. So in simple terms, a release strategy is a plan of different promotional and marketing activities that you'll undertake in order to effectively share your music with the world and maximize the attention, engagement, and listenership that it's going to receive. And typically a release strategy can be split into 2 phases. You'll have the pre-release phase, which will include all of the activities that will take place before the song is released. And then you'll have the post-release phase, which will include all of the activities that will take place after the song has been released. Now, before we even talk about a release strategy, there are going to be some steps that we're going to need to take first. So as you'll remember from part 1 of this video series, we're working on this track and it's now fully mastered and we're not going to make any further changes to it. So what we're going to need to do is export the track, and we're going to need to export a WAV file. Now you can do this on any DAW that you're using, whether it's FL Studio, Logic, Ableton, or any other. But as I use FL Studio, that's what we'll be using to demonstrate this step today. So there are 2 key things I'd want you to focus on here. First of all, you have your WAV bit depth. Now typically speaking, you're going to want this to be on either 16 or 24. But having worked with many different independent labels, I found that 16 bits tends to be the universally accepted format. And personally, I could not hear any difference between a 16-bit and 24-bit file. So we can just go with a 16-bit file. Another thing I also like to look out for is the sample rate that I use. Now, I typically like to go for 44.1 kilohertz. And once again, having worked with these independent labels, that just tends to be the standard. So I'll stick with that. Okay, so now we've got that out the way, we can finally start focusing on the more fun stuff. Now, picking a song title can be one of the easiest or most difficult tasks, simply because if you already know the name of that song, then perfect, you've got your title straight away. But if you don't know, you could very quickly become overwhelmed by the unlimited amount of options of what you could name your track. So here are a few things that I do when I don't already have the name for a track in mind. First off, I'll just start thinking about different themes about how the song makes me feel. For example, does the track sound dark, maybe cold? Is it a little bit eerie? Or have I gone for a more warm sound that gives me feelings of joy or happiness? I'll also think about the instrumentation that I've used, the chord progressions, maybe the foley that I've used, or the ambience and atmosphere that I've provided in the track as well. For this particular track, I already knew I was going to call it Playgrounds. That was always going to be what I was sticking with. But otherwise, I would have just focused on different objects or topics that are related to the overarching theme and feeling that I felt when I listened to the song. And unless I'm feeling particularly inspired by a certain name, I will just go with one of the first few things that I think of that makes sense for the track. We really don't need to overthink this step. Next up, we're going to talk about cover art. So cover art is crucial for music, as often the cover art can be the first impression that your music is going to make before it's even been heard. And you'll want to have something that can grab the attention of the potential user, but also something that will reflect the sound that they hear when they listen to the song. So let's continue working with my example track Playground. So we're going to want visuals that are going to match the theme of Playground. So this could be a playground itself, it could be a picture of children running around and laughing and screaming, it could be a picture of sport perhaps, but personally I wanted to focus on the playground itself. Now once I reached a point where I had a loose idea in my head of what I wanted the cover art to look like, I've got a number of decisions to make in terms of how I want to actually create the cover art. And in 2024, we're not short of options, but here are a few options I've tried before to give you some ideas. One option that's available is that you could pay someone to create cover art for you. There is an endless supply of graphic designers or illustrators out there who'd be willing to work at a reasonable price to create cover art that you're looking for. And this is something that I've done once before. And whilst the artwork did look great and it captured the vibe that I was looking for, I can't say that using that artwork ended up producing better results than if I'd simply made the artwork myself. So personally, I prefer to invest my money elsewhere. But if this is something that you consider to be particularly important to yourself, and you also feel you have the funds to invest in yourself, then why not? But there are other alternatives as well. The first of which is AI. Now, AI is obviously the big shift in technology that's got everyone talking in the last few years. It's a really incredible free tool that you can use to create royalty-free, unique images for your music. And as you can see, with a very quick Google search, there are so many free AI image generators that will quickly turn the text that you describe into a picture. Now, previously I used a platform called DALL-E. This platform was created by the same company that created ChatGPT. But as you can see, their free credits program is ending on April 1st, which means I'm going to have to find an alternative. But here's a sample of some of the cover art I generated using this platform. And personally, I'd consider paying for it if those credits are available at a reasonable price. There are plenty of free options, so I don't think this is anything to worry about whatsoever. But for this particular track, I decided to go DIY. And as you can see, this is the artwork that I've come up with. And this was the kind of structure that I used for the first set of my singles. And these are pretty simple to make. I'd grab myself a royalty-free picture from the likes of Pexels, Pixabay or Unsplash, and with the help of photo editing apps such as Visco or Studio, is a really nice quick way to make your own unique cover art and just get into the hand of being a bit hands-on when it comes to your independent releases. So this is certainly a path that I would encourage. But at the end of the day, it's completely up to you. But before we do move on, I did want to mention something a little bit important when it came to cover art. Once again, there are some specifications that we want to be aware of. And typically speaking, you'd want the final image to be either a PNG or a JPEG file. And you'd want the dimensions to be 3000 by 3000 to make sure that it's high quality and so that when someone clicks on the picture, they don't get this grainy, pixelated image. Okay, so at this stage, we now have our exported track. We've got a song title and some cover art to match. So technically we have everything that we need to upload our song to digital streaming platform. However, when it comes to a lo-fi release, there are technically two pathways in which you could choose how to release that track. Now you could release it completely independently on your own using a distributor of your choice, or you could release it via the likes of an independent label. Now I've done a combination of independent releases and releases via labels over the years. But for that very first single, I'd highly recommend that you do release it independently, and I'll give you a couple reasons why. Now, the biggest reason of all is that you really want to avoid any mistakes when it comes to that first single. If you haven't figured out by now, you're going to need to create an artist name for that song to appear on. And creating an artist name will be the name that's used for your artist profile on all of those streaming platforms such as Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and so on. Now, for that very first release, you're going to want to make sure that that artist name is spelled and stylized exactly as you want it to be. So it's important that you're able to be in control of this step rather than someone else. It also means that if there are any issues that occur with your release, which can happen, you can address them directly with the distributor rather than having to go through the label. And whilst my first release did go quite cleanly independently, I have had some issues with my songs ending up on the wrong artist profiles. And personally, I found that when I've been able to handle this directly with my distributor, it's been a lot more straightforward than when I have to go through a label to sort out those issues on my behalf. But that's just my recommendation. It is totally up to you. But I personally feel for that very first track, it's a lot easier to avoid any potential hiccups that do arrive when a song is uploaded. Secondly, it's going to be so much easier for you to get yourself verified on Spotify via Spotify for Artists if you handle that first release directly by yourself. And if you don't already know, Spotify for Artists is an essential tool for independent artists, and it can help provide some really valuable information about the listenership that you have, as well as provide you the opportunity to pitch to different algorithmic and editorial playlists on Spotify as well. So you'd want to get access to that as soon as possible so you'd be able to customize and shape your profile to your own liking. And the third one is more of a personal opinion. I just think that it's really good practice to understand that how your music is uploaded so that if there are any issues, you may be able to identify them yourself if you decide to work with labels in the future. So if you do decide to release that song independently, you're going to need to do that via a distributor. And there are a number of good distributors you could use, such as CD Baby, TuneCore, United Masters. There's plenty out there. But my personal preference, and the one that I've used since my first release, is DistroKid. But whichever distributor you decide to pursue with, there are different tiers of memberships that are available, all at different prices. So it's important that you take the time to research and decide which one is going to best suit your individual needs. Once you've decided on distributor and you're ready to upload that first track, I would recommend that you'd want to submit it at least 2 weeks before the song comes out to really give you enough time to plan an effective marketing and promoting strategy for when the song arrives. So that wraps up all the most important things we're going to want to cover for the pre-release of that first song. Now, before we move on to those post-release activities, I'd like to give you an opportunity to just like this video if you've been enjoying what you've been watching so far, and also give this channel a subscribe. It'll be a really great way to support the channel and help ensure that I can continue making videos like this for you. Now, some of you may have noticed that I haven't recommended that any of you do any active promotion or marketing of the track on social media before the song actually comes out. Now, there is a specific reason for this. The reason being is that even if you are lucky enough to grab the attention of someone with your music, you're most likely going to lose that person's attention if your song isn't readily available to listen to in a matter of clicks. So I would highly advise against trying to promote a song that isn't already out, as you're just going to be losing listeners rather than gaining them and building up some hype. And you may hear about things like pre-save campaigns, and I've taken part in them myself. But in all of my years of releasing music independently and following and interacting with a bunch of other independent artists, I've not heard one success story that's come from pre-saves. So honestly, I would advise against it and just save the hassle. Now, one of the first things you'll want to do when your song is released is find the best way to share it with people. Now, I found that the best way to do this is to create a link that anyone can click on so they can listen to or perhaps even buy the song on their preferred platform. Now, what you can see on the screen is an application called SoundPlate Clicks. Now, there are other platforms that you can use, but this is the one that I just prefer. And I prefer it because it is so simple and straightforward to use. And I'll quickly show you how it works. So when you go onto SoundPlate's website, you're going to go onto Clicks, and you're going to want to click on this Smart Links tab here. That's going to bring you to this page, okay? And you're going to use this page to create a smart link that's going to allow anyone to click on that track and allow them to listen or buy it however they want to. So carrying on using the song Playground, I've copied and pasted the URL. I'm just going to enter it in here like so, and I will click search and add. Now, as you can see, it's going to be finding that track on all of the different streaming platforms, and it will happen really, really quickly. So what I'm going to want to do now is enter in a customized URL, and here I'm just going to put yours truly CC Playground, and I'm going to scroll down. As you can see, it's got the link to that song on all of these different streaming platforms, which is wonderful. I have the option to customize a few things here, so I can choose not to show this on iTunes if I wanted to. I could hide the share button. I don't know why I'd want to do that, but I could choose to even collect some emails. I'm going to avoid doing all of that for now and just scroll right down so I can preview the cover. And I'm happy that with the cover that they've used. I'm just going to click save here, and boom, just like that, I've got the link. And if I copy and paste this link and head to my browser, this is what everyone's going to see. Okay, so it's got my cover art in the background and a blurred cover art to make a huge background for the whole web page, and you can stream or buy the track, and it's a really quick, easy way for someone to be able to listen to that song. So maybe you'll stick this on your Instagram or TikTok bio, or maybe you'll have a link tree in which someone can click on that and then they'll click onto this song. But I just find it's a really nice way for people to be able to click on your music and listen to it without sharing a specific link to a platform such as a Spotify or an Apple Music link. Even though Spotify does have the large market share, you can't assume that everyone is going to use that to listen to your music. So I'd highly recommend using a link like this that's going to allow anyone to be able to use one of their preferred streaming platforms. Okay, so now we finally have a link that we can use. We can go ahead and share the song on social media, and that's our next step. So obviously we're talking about Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever you'll use. However, in 2024, you can't so much as get away with a "my new song is out now" post with a picture of your cover art. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing and that you shouldn't do it, but times have really moved on where a simple picture of your cover art and a post is going to be enough to convince someone to listen to your music. Typically, you need video visuals to support the music that you're making. And you can do this in two ways. You can either go with what's called a performance video, and this is basically a video of you recreating a live performance of that song. Perhaps you played on your MIDI keyboard, or maybe you recorded some live guitar, or even you were hitting on your drum pad to put in some of those drums. And look, it doesn't matter if you actually played or not, to be completely honest, but it's really important that you make it look realistic. So if you can't actually play the guitar, I'd probably leave the guitar alone. But if you're going to be pretending to be hitting on the drum machine, just at least make sure that the equipment is plugged in and it is responding to whatever your fingers are doing in real time. The reason why I say it doesn't matter if it's live or not is because whilst the live versions always look better, I just think that having that initial visual to capture someone's attention is better than just the still image you could post online. But when it comes to social media, unless you've managed to make particularly exceptional content, or you've managed to be able to get a viral video, you'll find that the conversion rate of people from social media to actually listening to your song can often be quite low. So I wouldn't worry about the views or the conversion rates or any of the numbers when it comes to social media. Rather, I'll just see it as a way to build your catalog. So if someone wants to stumble across your profile, it will just look like that you are active. So the other type of video that I would recommend is what I'd call a creative video. It's just got to be any sort of video that can incorporate your music as a background activity. Once again, we're not trying to worry about getting that one viral video. We're just trying to have some solid visuals to accompany our music. That's all we're trying to do here. These are things that you can be preparing for that song when it's released on release day. So at the point you've uploaded that song for distribution and you have a release date, you should immediately be trying to figure out what kind of content you're going to use to support your song. Now, another really cool idea that you could use is live streaming on the day that your music is released. And during that live stream, you could choose to make it all about the song that you've released, or maybe you could just have a casual live stream where you're maybe working out in the background, or reading, or studying, or doing whatever, and having your song just playing in the background. Or maybe you're just having a casual chat with some of your followers, and again, having your music playing in the background. It's completely up to you what you want to do, but I noticed that live streams can be a really effective way to gather that initial attention of the audience, and if they're liking the song that you're playing, they may be interested and want to go and listen to it for themselves. Now, this next tip is one that I would recommend that you use with caution, because when done wrong, it can really go badly. But I do think it can be a good idea to share your music with online communities that you're already a part of, like Discord, for example. I would only share that song in Discord servers in which I'm already active in and I've contributed to, rather than jumping in a random server on release day and sharing your track with a bunch of people who you have no connection with whatsoever. Not only are they not going to want to listen to the track, but they're actually going to find that to be a spam message. So please don't do that. Rather, if you are interested in joining Discord servers, just engage in some organic conversations long before that your song comes out. And when you do share, don't just ask people to listen to your song. Perhaps ask for some specific advice or feedback on elements where you're unsure of. Or maybe if you're looking for positive feedback, you can ask for someone to tell you what you think particularly sounds good in the track. It's completely up to you, but try to establish some meaningful relationships before asking people to go and listen and provide feedback on your song. It's just good etiquette. And my final tip for you is to explore playlisting, particularly on Spotify. Now, this is a topic that I covered in a little bit more detail in the previous video, so go ahead and click the link on the screen right now if you'd like to watch that. But when it comes to Spotify playlisting, it needs to be done correctly and carefully. But when done in the right way, it can be a really good way to feed some positive data to the Spotify algorithm and boost your artist profile. And that's about it. That's everything that I would do if I was releasing my first lo-fi song today. Now trust me, this certainly isn't an all-inclusive guide, and there will be some additional things that you could do that I haven't mentioned in this video, but these are the steps that I personally would take, and I do hope that you find them useful in releasing that first lo-fi single of yours. Thanks for watching this two-part video series. I do hope it's been useful, but if there are any topics that you'd like me to cover in a little bit more detail, just drop a comment below and I'd be happy to make a more specific video on it. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.